Hi, all. Welcome to Fox 10 News Now. I'm going to say it again because I'm not 110% sure my mic was on. Hello, everyone. Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Fox 10 News Now. Kraft, what a live shot.
Okay.
It was so good. I'm live on air, but you had a great live shot.
Cool.
Your hair and your pants, it was like...
Your shivering was classic. Cool.
It was amazing.
Strange for sure. Thanks.
Steve Kraft just walked in the room after a very good live shot that he did on our 5 and 6 o'clock broadcast. Specifically the 5, we opened with him, and it was awesome. He was out in the midst of some crazy weather, and we documented that. Hopefully we can get that on our YouTube page because it was pretty amazing to look at. We're going to start off the show tonight with a exclusive that one of our producers got with Jan Brewer. Michael Edgecombe set us up with this awesome interview with Jan Brewer, and I'm looking for that video right now. So give me 2 seconds, but this is in regards to a current controversy surrounding a brand using her image in some ads online, and she came out and said that they were hurtful. They hurt her feelings. Troy Hayden sat down for a one-on-one with our former governor, and I have that for you right now.
And now you got me that you can talk about instead of your criminal.
Oh, Jody?
Jody, I couldn't figure out how soon we forget.
I can't, that's been 2 years, and I still can't, everywhere I go, still to this day.
Hearing some behind-the-scenes stuff here. I went ahead and muted it in case Troy says anything he doesn't want repeated.
Yeah.
Repeated.
No, it was weird. It was like she's walking down and she has these big...
So let me just fast forward here a few minutes. This is, you get good and bad with raw material. I definitely want to be respectful, though, to our anchors and our guests in regards to private conversations.
I watch you guys, you know that.
Thank you.
She's always watching, she says.
I am. I'm keeping my eyes on.
What are you doing to keep busy these days?
Well, I'm working for Ballard Spahr, which is a national
that's
law
right.
firm. You know?
But they're not working too much. I hope you're enjoying
No,
some
it's
time
been
off.
fun. I'm working with Scott, and he's my prior chief of staff at the governor's office. And now we're doing government
Oh,
relations
good.
and public policy. Got offices all across the country, all over the world. In
Wow,
fact.
so you get to travel.
I do.
Are you doing
and
speaking
give a lot of
engagements and stuff?
speaking. And
Should run for president.
policy. Right, why not? Throw me in there.
When I searched you last night just to get some of this info, that's one of the first things that came up, is the talk about you running in 2016.
This might be the only person who can give Trump for a run for his money.
She says she knows him. They talk.
Check 1, 2. Pick it, pick it, beep, pick it, beep, pick it, pick it, beep.
I'm 71 years old. And this is the most exciting election ever. It's making people wake up and pay attention.
And Hillary was supposed to be just a given, and now that seemed like that's
Who knows?
Is that what I said?
Exactly.
On both sides of the aisle? And they
Right.
got their women. We've got Carly.
Yeah, I'm going to skip
On
a few more
Facebook.
minutes. Let's execute this. Come on.
It took
There
forever.
we go.
It took like 4 hours to get that done. And then 10 seconds of me. But what was
Probably
interesting is that,
salty.
Hold on for a second.
this is like the hot seat, huh? Where's our host? Is he getting beautified? Am I?
I like how they tied in Ellen. I had no idea.
Oh no, we.
Okay. You
I
gonna
knew
shoot
that.
this?
Yeah, and Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
They
we're
didn't
gonna
tie
do
Michael
the
Jordan in, but they did the same.
Oh,
thing to
really?
him. These are little funny seats. You feel a little perky on here.
And Jan, we still got to take you to Valley Bar to get that drink name.
Oh, let's do it. What's the, I keep telling my guys, what's the name of my drink?
It's called Brewer's Lime.
Yeah, Brewer's Lime.
And then the room when you go in, it's called the Rose Room afterwards.
Oh, nice.
They have like some really kind of old funky furniture and like a painting of her by a
Really?
Yeah, really cool seating, really cool bar, and then there's even more room to
And it's
eat.
just,
gonna
it's
shoot it
right
then?
there on First Street, is it? No, on
You are shooting it. Monroe, and it's
I'm not shooting it.
downstairs.
right across from.
Oh, you want to?
I want somebody to shoot my interview with her.
Oh, I thought you were going to interview her and look at the comments.
Kind
Okay.
of go in that alley and then.
I'm going to get
My
Michael to
son
do
went
this.
by there to go in there and look at it, and he says
You gonna
it's
do
got
this
a
then?
huge venue for live concerts
Governor
and stuff
Jam
inside.
Brewer.
And they want me to come. Set it up in our spare time. A Brewer Lime.
Well, I mean, if you want to go tonight, we can. I don't know if you're too busy for that. But yeah, and it's owned by Crescent Ballroom, which is fantastic.
What is Crescent Ballroom?
It's the most popular place for live music here in the Valley, and they have live music 7
Okay.
nights a week, and then even like DJs, and dancing and great food.
Scott, have you been there?
2nd Avenue and Denver.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah, it's got the little metal railing out front. One-story building, kind of rust colored.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
All right,
Oh,
hello
why haven't
everybody.
you and your
Another one of our
sweetie been
Facebook
there?
posts live. I've got former Arizona Governor
busy.
Jam Brewer in here in the studio. And we are going
You
to talk
got me.
about
You're not
the,
gonna shoot my
insulting
feet, right?
internet ads that have been featuring a really unflattering image of her. So hang with us. We're going to be a few minutes.
Chicken nachos and burritos at Crescent Ballroom.
Really?
Yeah, and then Valley.
See, I'm all old. Would you take a picture and send it once we get started? I haven't tweeted anything out. I don't think I should,
We're live on Facebook, just to let you know.
Oh, you are?
Yes. Say hi to everybody on Facebook.
Hi, everybody.
It's pretty cool. It's called Facebook Mentions. It allows you to go live on there if you have that blue check. You have a blue check probably on your Facebook.
I don't
mentions.
know.
Yeah, if you do.
I'm,
Talk to Jeff
technology,
after.
I'm not too.
Well, it's pretty good. It's amazing how you can reach all sorts of people.
Okay, look at him.
And since...
Good.
Okay.
No feet in the picture.
No, you're
I
seeing
can't-
what we got here. See it
Okay,
up there?
okay, because I
Do you like
took
how you
my.
look? You look fantastic.
I can't see.
Yeah.
I
Good.
look okay. I
Really
look good
Oh, the
because
lighting
it's
here is
all
fantastic.
it's all about my image.
Yes, and they're better. Hopefully, better than the ones we've been seeing on the internet. Let me know when we're ready, Michael.
Let me swallow my gum.
Okay. You're not supposed to swallow gum.
Why not? Your mother told you that. I read on Google that that's just a myth.
Did you see what just happened there?
I told my kids the same thing. Now I do it.
No, you do? Okay. It must be a mom thing. All right. Two-shot first? Yep. Okay. And joining us now, former Arizona Governor Jam Brewer. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Troy. It's great to be with you.
I wish we were seeing you under better circumstances, but you've been through a lot in the last few months.
I have.
So tell us about these internet ads. When was the first you heard about them or saw them? Tell me about that.
It was about 6 months ago. I noticed it on there because somebody had mentioned to me that it was up there. And of course, it's on all the pages that I read. And so I saw it one day, and so I looked at it. And of course, I was humiliated and also hurt. And thought, well, eventually it would go away. And then they kept coming up, and then I clicked, and they would go to a plastic surgeon or they'd go to products. And I thought, well, they'll give it up. But it just got out of control. I mean, absolutely out of control. And people were talking about it everywhere that I went.
Right.
They wanted to talk about my husband divorcing me, whom I've been married to almost 50 years.
Because one of the ads, explain that, because one of the ads said something about that, right? What did the ad
Right.
say?
They said that my husband divorced me because of my old age and my looks. And then I had a revenge makeover. And of course, those things are hurtful. They're just absolutely hurtful. And they didn't have permission to use my image. They lied, they were mean, and they were hateful. And it was all done for profit for them. And of course, it's coined, what is it? Clicks.
Oh, yeah, clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait.
Right.
And so obviously it was getting lots of hits because it stayed up there for so
They kept it
long.
up.
And it was on, 4 different pictures. And so I, it's not tolerable. And they were making a profit off of my image. And that's wrong. And it's illegal.
Tell me, emotionally, how did that hit you? The very first time you saw that ad?
Well, It's very hurtful. I think it's hurtful for anybody to know that you're probably not the best looking gal in the country and you're not the best looking gal in the neighborhood. But you still are a person, you have feelings, and you do the best you can with what you've got. And for them to go in there and use a photo and then distort it and Photoshop it is horrendous. And then, of course, the ugly comments on Twitter. But I've been blessed now that people have come and they've been very, very supportive of me, and for that I'm grateful. And you've got to take action, I guess. You can't just sit and wait, or it will continue and continue and continue.
And I have to say, and I've seen you personally many times, that's the worst photo I've ever seen of you anywhere. And you say that you think that's doctored.
Oh yeah, no, it's been shown that it was, it's been used on the Photoshop type of stuff, and it was
Right.
done by a long lens camera. It was when I was one of them, the one with the earrings with my hair up, was done at the White House when I was there, and so I was inside the White House and they shot it from a distance.
So you say you've had a lot of support. What are people saying?
People are saying, go get them, Jan, sue the heck out of them. Do it for us. You deserve better than that. We support you, Jan. It's just been amazing, the phone calls. And by the way, from around the world, and emails from around the world, because I've been very blessed. There's people out there that are and have been very supportive of me over my career. And I've got a recognizable face.
Oh yeah, people. I mean, come on, from all the stuff that we went through, 1070 and all those things.
Right.
You were forefront of so many
Right,
things.
so-
And it's not just you. And I think it's interesting that you're taking this on because you're high profile and you've got a voice. But I always think about there's one of that little girl who's got the really gummy smile. I see her all the time, and those are human beings out there somewhere.
Absolutely, and she's a little girl, but she's got parents too. How their heart must be breaking. You just feel so abused when you see things like that. You feel abused when you see it, and then the person, like myself, we feel abused and mistreated. And to have people out there that are that mean and that nasty for profit at your expense, when it's not even true, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
So what do you want to see done?
Well, I've been talking to lawyers, and I'm looking to see. I want them all down. I want them to stop.
And they did get them taken down. Is that correct, or they're in the process?
I understand that there's 2 still up, so I'm
really?
not quite sure about that. But
Okay.
they need to take them down, and I'm going to talk to my lawyers and see what kind of action we can take. I'm not going to sit back and let it go unresolved, because if not me, then who else? When does it stop?
Right.
When does it stop? You can see all of them, the ugly pictures of other people. Maybe they don't have the wherewithal to go after them, but
Right.
I've had it. Breaks your heart.
And I've heard it's difficult to find out who's actually doing this, as so many things on the internet are. It's this layer and this layer, and this person's claiming that the ad company's claiming that they didn't produce the ad, they just distribute it. And so have you gotten to the heart of who actually did this?
Well, we were fortunate that the paper, the Arizona Republic, of course, did the investigative story on it, and they got some information. But we have lawyers, and certainly there are investigators that can do that stuff. I couldn't do it on my own. I didn't even know who they were, other than if you clicked, which I didn't try to do. I mean, I did try, but I didn't want to look at it anymore. It was so humiliating that it went to a plastic surgeon, or it went for cosmetic products, et cetera, that they wanted you to buy. And so then you could be beautiful and you wouldn't have to look like the Jan Brewer in the image.
A bad one. All right, can we talk about something that's more fun?
What?
Just in a very general sense. You say you're enjoying what's going on politically right now.
Yes, I am. I have been through a lot of presidential elections, and I think it's been the most exciting ever. And that we've got people on both sides of the aisle out there, and they're out there talking to the people, and there's a lot of scraping and scrapping going on. And I think that it's ignited America, the United States, and that more people are paying attention, and they definitely want straight shooters and straight talkers and truth tellers. And I love it. I love it. I just think it's exciting. I can't get enough of it. I thought maybe it would all fizzle out, but it hasn't.
Right.
It just continued to go. I can't wait to watch the presidential primary at the Reagan Library on the 16th of September.
It seems like it's almost the year of the anti-politician in a way, where you've got, at least on the GOP side, you've got 3 of the top people who have never held office before. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does surprise me, because you would think that the seasoned politicians, which I believe being a politician is an honorable profession, but I know from experience, people like truth tellers. They like straight talkers, because I think that's what people have told and saw me as as a straight talker, a truth teller. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that, and now it's driving everybody else to be a little bit more straightforward and talking the language that people understand.
Governor Brewer, really nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you.
And good luck with this issue going forward.
Thank you so much.
Great seeing you. Good stuff.
That was good.
Good
That
job.
was easy. Thank you. And no pictures of my unmanicured toes, right?
Nope. Nope. Oops. Trying to cut it before she says anything too funny, too silly. And of course, never, you know, I wasn't fast enough, basically, is the concern. Such a cute interview, though. What a cute woman. And every girl out there knows what it's like to be bullied or to have somebody, sorry, I'm trying to find my lower third. Every girl out there knows what it's like to have somebody poking at their insecurities and kind of exposing their insecurities. So you can't help as a woman to hurt for her in that sense. It was unfortunate and cruel and nasty that somebody chose to use those photos of her to try to sell a product that she is in no way, shape, or form associated with. Hey, let's go to Tower Cam because it looks unbelievable right now. Take a look at that. How gorgeous is South Mountain? So beautiful. And that's our current point of view. Look at, it's like heavenly blue skies. Little cotton candy in the center. Those are my favorite. It's my favorite when we're on this live show to be able to bring you visuals that look like that right there, because that's unbelievably gorgeous. I have some of a speech from Joe Biden. This is out of Atlanta. My signal is pretty terrible right now from this speech. Let me I'm gonna bring me up for 2 seconds. My signal from Atlanta is beyond awful currently. So let me see if I can bring you some of the speech from earlier in Atlanta when I had a better signal. I'd like to do that for you. And how cute was Jan Brewer? That was probably the highlight of my day, to be quite honest with you. To be quite honest with you, that was absolutely the highlight of my day. Let's see here. Oh, what is this? Having some technical issues over here. This is Joe Biden, our vice president, speaking in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is his intro. So give me 2 seconds and I'll pull that up for you. So a lot of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. If my father were here, he'd believe it, and my mother would say, "Who in the heck are you talking about?" It's if I were smart, I'd say thank you and just sit down right now. You know, I won't take much time. I could spend the whole lecture talking about my affection and respect and how much I mean this sincerely, we're the same age, but how much I've looked up to Stu. And I can. I'm trying to sort of control my emotion right now because I love this guy. And we've been through a lot together. and I've learned a lot from Stu. He has been pointed out, served in multiple capacities, serving his country. But the thing I've always admired about Stu was his basketball prowess in high school. Y'all think I'm kidding, I'm not. When I had a couple cranial aneurysms, and the first time around, they told my family I might not make it, and they asked me to say goodbye to my children for real, as before we went down to the operating room. And I said to my son, Bo and Hunter, I said, fellas, look, it's not going to happen. If anything happens, you're trying to joke. I said, I don't want anything on my tombstone about senator and all that stuff. I just want you to put husband, son, father, athlete. My brother learned later in the waiting room that's what I said, and he said, delusional to the end. But the thing I liked about my coach used to always say to me, you got to be able to go to your left. Playing basketball, those are your basketball players. The thing I liked about Stu, he's gone to his left his whole life. I like him so much. And Stu, it is not hyperbole to suggest that all that you've done and accomplished would not have been done as well or been as consequential without Fran. And I know it still leaves a hole in your heart. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here. As I look at the others who have spoken at the Eisenstadt Lecture Series, it's a virtual rogues gallery of the leading international figures in American and international relations. And so I'm flattered to be counted among those who've been able to speak here. With your permission, I'd like to talk to you tonight about the state of the world and where and what I think, where America sits and what I think our role should be. As Stu remembers, I'm always quoting Irish poets, and people think I quote Irish poets because I'm Irish. That's not the reason. I quote them because they're simply the best poets in the world. All's changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Those words are written by William Butler Yeats in a poem called Easter, 1960, commemorating the first rising in Ireland in the 20th century. He used them to describe his Ireland at that moment. But I would respectfully suggest those words better describe the world today than they did Yeats's Ireland in 1915. For all has changed utterly. In the past 15 years, more changes and challenges and more opportunities than any time since World War II have beset us. Back then, much of Europe and Asia was in ruins, and there was nothing obvious about the wisdom of rebuilding our former allies as well as our former enemies. It was one of the great inflection points in human history, and a new international order was needed to keep the peace and bring prosperity back to the world. So we launched the Marshall Plan, created the United Nations, NATO, the World Bank, the IMF, and so much more, because we recognized that democracy never flourishes where our economy is dormant. It took vision, and it took political courage. And the nations around the world reaped the benefit no more than we did here in the United States of America. And today, I would respectfully suggest we stand at another inflection point in our history. China has become the single most important relationship of the 21st century. New powers like India and Brazil are altering the global balance. Existing powers like Russia and regional powers like Iran are testing and crossing the limits of international law and acceptable behavior. And non-state actors like ISIL are upending state systems in the Middle East and prevent a clear and present danger to so many. The technological revolution we're undergoing is opening entire new frontiers of innovation and collaboration, but also exposing us to new significant vulnerabilities. The energy revolution is transferring the geopolitical landscape. We no longer face the world-ending dangers we confronted during the Cold War, when thermonuclear exchanges were a possibility, a real possibility. Today's threats are more diverse and different in magnitude, but there's no doubt that terrorism is a threat for which we must remain vigilant, but also keep it in perspective. The risk of the average American dying in a car crash or from cancer is far more likely than being the victim of a terrorist attack. Even if we face fewer existential threats than previous generations, I understand the world doesn't always feel like it's a safer place. We turn on our TV or the phone screens that we carry. They're filled with images of brutality and disorder. In this complex and seemingly chaotic world, securing our vital interests requires strengthening the key pillars of our global leadership and exercising our influence in the right and wise way. We can't just lead only by the example of our power. We also must lead by the power of our example. We have to maintain the finest military in the world. We need a prosperous economy, both as a foundation for a stronger military, but also as a linchpin for our global influence. And we must stay true to our values, because the more we enjoy the world's respect, the more and the easier it is for us to be able to lead the world. It's clear we have to confront the challenges of the day, but we can't lose sight of the big picture, the long view. We without question remain the most powerful nation in the world's most indispensable power. And we've demonstrated, and we have the power to demonstrate it, that we will not hesitate to act alone in using power to protect the American people or our vital interest. But it's important we understand that not every problem in the world is about us. That's why in our administration we focused on several key principles. One, defending and expanding the basic rules of international order that provide the framework for global security and prosperity. Two, reinvigorating and modernizing our core alliances and partnerships to be able to collectively tackle some of the world's most pressing and elusive challenges. And thirdly, engaging emerging powers and the world's most dynamic regions to expand the community of nations invested in making the international order succeed. At this new inflection point, this approach positions the United States not just to react, but to seize the enormous opportunities that lie before us to create a safer, more secure, more prosperous world in the decades ahead. Because there's enormous opportunities if we're smart and a little lucky. An essential pillar of our global leadership remains our military might. Our military must and will remain the most capable fighting force in the history of the world, and that is not hyperbole, in the history of the world. We must never forget, in the process, the sacred obligation that we have to our men and women in uniform, not just to provide them with what they need in battle, but to fight for them and take care of them and their families when they return home. Because of who we are, we have never hesitated to use force when necessary, even if it means acting on our own. But in every case, our use of force should be guided by two main principles. One, defending the American people and our vital interest. And two, when we deploy forces in the field, doing so in a way that connects to a clear strategy and a sustainable outcome. Even as over the last 7 years we've vastly improved our homeland security, we have nonetheless taken the fight to Al-Qaeda and ISIL and other violent extremists that threaten our citizens by going after the terrorists wherever they hide. We've decimated Al-Qaeda's leadership in Pakistan and the Fatah and elsewhere, including Osama bin Laden, and more recently, the leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. We've carried out over 6,500 airstrikes against ISIL in Iraq and Syria, taking more than 10,000 of their fighters off the battlefield, including many of their top leaders. In fact, in the past few weeks, our airstrikes have taken out ISIL's number 2 leader and ISIL's top online recruiter. But whenever we consider deploying force, we have to do so in a way that's sustainable. Lasting outcomes are best achieved by fighting alongside and in support of capable and willing partners. So we're working alongside countries like Great Britain, France, Australia, Spain, the Netherlands, and many of our Arab partners, and now Turkey, to take the fight to ISIL and support local forces in Iraq and Syria. Our military strikes have allowed anti-ISIL forces, many of them Kurds, to retake all but 60 miles of the Syrian-Turkey border. And I've been directly involved in discussions with President Erdogan in Turkey to get them engaged finally in clearing the final 60 miles that allows access of foreign fighters and material to ISIL in Syria. In Iraq, although you'd never know it from the headlines, ISIL now controls a third less territory than they did a year ago. ISIL is a horrific enemy. Every time we think we've seen the limits of their depravity, they reveal a new method of torture, murder, slavery, and the destruction of ancient cultural heritage. They are even now using a bastardized version of the Quran to justify on religious grounds rape as an appropriate behavior. Make no mistake about it. We will destroy this scourge, but it will take time. As we have said from the beginning, this is going to be a multi-year campaign, and we're only a year into it. The extent of ISIL's 25,000 foreign fighters coming from 100 different countries is something the world has never seen before. We will continue to degrade and ultimately destroy them. We have to be honest and sober about how long it will take and how difficult it will be. This requires a degree of diligence and patience And sending thousands of ground troops, as many of our friends seem eager to do, isn't a solution. To be sustainable, it must be the people and local governments who stand up. We can and will help them, but we cannot do it for them. A strong military is only possible with a strong economy, the second pillar of our global leadership. We have gone from crisis to recovery. We're on the cusp of a genuine resurgence if we seize the moment. American corporations are coming home. These beautiful children sitting in front of me will not hear the word outsourcing in their generation. The word is insourcing. And that's not because of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, although I think we've helped. No, I didn't say that for applause. I'm being completely straightforward with you. As Stu points out, no one ever doubts I mean what I say, but the problem is sometimes I say all that I mean. Corporations are staying and coming home to America because we have the best research universities in the world. We have the most adaptive venture capitalist system in the world. We have a rule of law that protects intellectual property, courts that fairly adjudicate contractual differences. We have the most productive workers in the world, 3 times as productive as workers in China, for example. And we are and will be, for the remainder of 3/4 of this century, the epicenter of energy is North America. It is not the Arabian Peninsula. It is not Africa. It is not Venezuela. It is, in fact, without exaggeration, North America. And if we're smart and we can begin to deal with the dysfunction in Washington, we can maintain this momentum. But we need to do 2 things. One, there used to be a bipartisan consensus that America should have the most modern infrastructure in the world. We do not have the most modern infrastructure in the world. But we must, in order to sustain the economic growth that we're on the verge of seeing take off. And secondly, we have to have the most skilled workforce in the world. If we do those 2 things, we will not only remain competitive, we will, I guarantee you, be the most dominant economic force in the 21st century. And the final pillar of our leadership rests on remaining what John Winthrop called and Ronald Reagan spoke of, that shining city on the hill. A leader worthy of the rest of the world to follow. Success in international relations, like any relationship, comes down to respect. It comes down to matching our words and our deeds. That's why it's so critical that we ban torture. How can we talk about our system of justice and equality and sustain and justify torture? How can we continue to hold up our Constitution and our Bill of Rights as a shining example to which the rest of the world attempts to repair without closing Guantanamo? How can we lead without reforming the conduct of our intelligence operations? And why? Why it's so critical that we put in place a comprehensive immigration policy that recognizes the dignity of all people. The President asked me to manage relations in this hemisphere, and I promise you, I promise you, nothing is more consequential to even the most sophisticated, well-educated leaders in the hemisphere, other than recognizing that we treat people of like culture with respect. My grandfather Finnegan was a very well-educated man, but he never, and he wasn't a typical Irishman who celebrated and wore funny hats on St. Patrick's Day. He was a sober soul. But he could never reconcile his attitude toward Great Britain. And the reason for that is, even though he was in America, he said, Joey, how can I believe I'm respected when they don't respect the heritage I come from? The same thing pertains throughout this hemisphere, folks. It's the right thing for our country and for our standing in the world to stand by our values. And I'm confident that if we sustain the world's strongest military, the most robust economy, and remain true to our values, we will remain, for the foreseeable future, the world's indispensable nation. But as I said, the world is changing. There are multiplying actors and deepening interconnections. We have to work in concert with others whenever possible to head off the common threats and pursue common interests. In today's world, with all its changes, we need to continue to defend the basic rules of international order, adapting and expanding those rules for the 21st century. The founding principle of modern international system was out of the Treaty of Westphalia. It's about territorial integrity, the inviolability of borders. No principle matters more to our common security. Without it, there is chaos. Nations have not always respected this principle, but there is no question that adherence to it has dramatically improved over the last 50 years. At the end of the Cold War, NATO and Russia signed what most people forget, a thing called the Founding Act, a document that stated that both Russia and the member states of NATO would abide by the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, and would refrain from threat or use of force in contravention of the UN Charter and the Helsinki Final Act, setting the stage for the first time in modern history of a Europe whole, free, and at peace. But yet last year,
Yeah, it looks like I'm having some technical difficulties. All of a sudden, I'm much louder. Ooh, was it because the video was so quiet? Who knows? Let me see if this is right.
Protect the conduits through which commerce flows. This commitment is even more essential today. But we need to update the rules to reflect a modern economy and the progress in human rights and progression. We need trade agreements that protect the rights of labor and workers, protect the environment. And in a globalized economy, we have to reinforce our commitment to the free flow of commerce in the air, on the seas, and in cyberspace. That's why we're finalizing the Trans-Pacific Partnership to boost trade and ensure a level playing field across the Asia-Pacific. 12 economies representing nearly 40% of the world's GDP, uniting behind a new standard to protect workers, to protect the environment, to level the playing field, to allow real competition, supporting jobs, both in that region and here at home. We need to reinforce the principle of freedom of navigation around the globe because, unlike any other time in history, 90% of all the commerce in the world is on the back of a ship out on open waters as I speak. That's why we're championing and establishing international norms as well in the realm of international cyberspace, the backbone of today's information economy, being breached repeatedly. And to state the obvious, our security and economy are closely intertwined with the global environment, the issue of global warming. That's why we're leading the world to design a new global agreement to address the enormous threat posed by climate change, going into the UN Climate Summit here in December, making some very difficult decisions so those beautiful children in front of me will be in a position to enjoy this country and the environment as much as we have. Another cornerstone of international order is a common commitment to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. This is embodied in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the most widely adhered to arms control disarmament agreement in history. 190 countries signed on. That's why from day one, and I say this in the synagogue, we have devoted so much time and energy to preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. There was a lot of talk about that before. But until we came along, there was no weapon system developed to be able to do anything about it. And the number of centrifuges and stockpiles of uranium that were acquired mushroomed before we took office. But through the concerted efforts and the leadership of President Obama, we've united the world in imposing crippling sanctions on Iran, resulting in an agreement that prevents Iran from ever acquiring such a weapon. I know there's a great deal of controversy surrounding this deal. This morning before I went back to Washington, I spent time with, I believe it was 40 leading Jewish activists and leaders in Miami, discussing in detail for almost 2.5 hours this agreement. And I'm going to say, and presumptuous of me, what Stu implied. I take a back seat to no one who holds any office, anywhere, in any party, at any level in the United States. I take a back seat to no one in my support and commitment to Israel. And I have no doubt this deal will make us safer, Israel safer, and the region safer, and the world safer, because it allows us to retain every single solitary option we have today with increasing capacity for as far as the eye can see. I say this as someone who has spent decades looking closely at the arms control agreement. Revealing my age, I go all the way back to being engaged as a young senator in the SALT agreement. I said that to a large audience the other day of people younger than me, and they thought I was talking about salt and pepper. They didn't know what the devil I was talking about. But I've been involved, as Stu will remember, in every single major arms control agreement, because as a young man, when I entered the Senate, if you wanted to be involved in international relations, you had to master strategic doctrine, because that was the only game in town in terms of international relations and interchange with the Soviet Union. And I have been a skeptic, as the press has pointed out. I've been, as they say in southern Delaware, the skunk at the family picnic. I've been a skeptic about the administration's ability to negotiate this agreement. But I'm convinced, and this deal is not about trust. This deal is only about one thing: the ability to verify without anyone able to interfere with our ability to verify and reimpose sanctions. This deal provides a long-term solution, closing off every pathway of Iran has to a bomb. It contains Iran's enrichment capacity for more than a decade, reducing their centrifuges by 2/3, their stockpile of enriched uranium by 98%, preventing them from using the uranium to produce a bomb in their Iraq reactor, prevents Iraq reactor from becoming a plutonium factory. It imposes the most intrusive inspection regime ever negotiated in any arms control agreement in history, offering the best defense against a covert program. And if Iran violates the deal, we can impose sanctions and no one can stop us at the UN, and we can reimpose our own sanctions. And no collections of states, including Russia, China, can block us from doing that the way the agreement is written. And if Iran ever moves to acquire a nuclear weapon, all options are at our disposal, including the military option, and our capabilities and intelligence grow as they grow. Many of the options that we now have will improve significantly. If I want to rob your house, if before I do that, I'm allowed to have inspectors in every room in your home, know which drawer you have the condiments in, know where the towels are, etc., and then you violate an agreement, my ability to go back into your house is overwhelmingly more, I'm more capable of doing it than I'd have never been in that house. That's what this inspection regime allows. And no one argues, including our friends in Israel, that for the next minimum 10 years, that we have absolute transparency. And by the way, for the record, we can challenge an inspection anywhere in Iran, including military bases, including military sites. I could go on and take the whole evening to speak to this, but this is a good deal. And if we walk away from this deal, as some of our critics propose, we gain none of those benefits. Sanctions at a minimum will begin to collapse. I predict they'd collapse completely. American leadership in the world would be questioned. Our visibility into Iran's program would evaporate, and Iran would be left with only a few short months away from getting material needed for a nuclear weapon, and no one can test that, here or abroad. The last point. Our diplomacy with Iran makes clear that challenges we face today require collective responses, both in enhancing our success and building an international consensus for the actions we may have to take on our own. Which is why another key element of our strategy entails strengthening our core alliances and our partnerships. In Europe, we've strengthened NATO, improved our collective capabilities in response to the common threats. In the face of Russian transgression on Europe's frontier, we've not only rallied our European allies to support Ukraine and penalize Russia, we've also increased NATO deployments on land, sea, and the air over Central and Eastern Europe. Simultaneously, we are encouraging and assisting countries across Europe to diversify their energy policies in order to limit the ability of Moscow to use energy as a political weapon. In Asia, we're building on 6 decades of commitments, underwriting the region's security and stability by modernizing our alliance and expanding our cooperation. America today has more peacetime military training and partnerships in the Asia-Pacific than ever before, and by 2020, 60% of our naval assets and 60% of our air power will be stationed in the Pacific. Beyond mutual defense, we're working with our allies in Europe and Asia on everything from Ebola to counterterrorism to climate change. In the Middle East, our alliances with Israel and our strategic relationship with our Arab partners also remain critical to the security and stability of the global economy. Our commitment to Israel's security remains and will always remain absolutely unshakable. Absolutely unshakable. We're in the midst of a policy disagreement with the Israeli government, just as previous administrations have. But let me make something absolutely clear. Israel has no greater friend than the United States and no president. I know I get credit. I'm automatically, and it's very kind of everybody to give me credit for my credibility and support for Israel. But there's always the question, what I don't know about Barack in some quarters. This president has done more to advance Israel's security than any president in history. We are providing, as the Israeli Council may have to reluctantly acknowledge, 20% of Israel's entire defense budget is paid for by the United States of America. It has never been there before, and we make no apologies for that. More than $3 billion every year in security assistance. A willingness to talk about a 10-year guarantee, a memorandum of understanding that it will not be lessened. Another $3 billion. In addition to that, extensive support for Israel's missile defense system, including Arrow 3 and David slings, and $1 billion in supplemental support for Iron Dome since 2010, saving countless Israeli lives. We've taken unprecedented steps to ensure Israel maintains its qualitative edge against any potential foes, including the provision of penetrating munitions, the F-35 stealth fighter, which only Israel will possess in the region. This commitment to Israel on my part and the President is personal. Consequently, we will continue to remain a steadfast supporter of Israel. And when this is finished, I predict to you, Israel and Bibi, who's an old friend, a personal friend, will be willing to sit down and talk about what additional security assistance we can provide along the lines that we've offered. There's also a state of apprehension among some of our Arab friends about the wider implications of the Iran deal. I get these concerns, but let me be crystal clear. This nuclear deal is not a grand bargain with Iran any more than the START agreement was a grand bargain with the dictatorship of the communist regime in the Soviet Union while they were about seeing to it that American lives were in jeopardy, while they were invading other countries, while they were destabilizing Africa, while they were destabilizing other parts of the world. This is not a permission slip for Tehran to destabilize the region and threaten our friends. And let me make something else clear. Every sanction in place against any entity or individual in Iran for the support and encouragement of terrorism stays in place. Nothing changes. And we will continue to sanction any entity and take physical action where we can against Iran for supplying weapons from anyone from the Houthis to Hezbollah. That's why the President convened our Gulf partners at Camp David in May, and why I'm going back tomorrow to meet with the King of Saudi Arabia and the Defense Minister, initiating a plan to expand our security cooperation. That's why as we speak, there are still 35,000 forces, American troops, like my son who spent a year in Iraq, deployed in the region to protect our interests and defend our friends. Just as we did during the Cold War, we struck arms control agreements with the Soviets while continuing to counter all the threats they pose to us and our allies around the world. We will continue to push back against the destabilizing activities of Iran, defending our interests and our allies against Iranian aggression, speaking out against anti-Semitism, Iran's human rights abuses, and demand the release of people illegally held, and continue the sanctions and maintain sanctions on any entity, including the IRGC and Soleimani and others. who support and engage in destabilization. Over the next decade, it's possible the Iranian people demand moderation of the government behavior. There'll be a new regime in place, but I'm not counting on that, and no one should. This nuclear deal is not premised on that. Even as we confront today's threats in that region, we have opportunity to seize transformational opportunities. Expanding the community of responsible stakeholders invested in common security and stability. And to do this, we have to deepen our engagement with emerging powers in the world's most dynamic regions, expanding the community of responsible stakeholders invested in common security and prosperity. Countries like India, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, Nigeria, actors that increasingly play a critical role in addressing global challenges. But managing our relationship with China is maybe the single most important relationship that will shape the course of the 21st century. In 1979, as a young senator, I was, along with 5 other senators, the first Americans to visit China after, quote, normalization. What I saw then, I still believe, is that a rising and peaceful China can be a positive partner on the world stage. But I have spent over 25 hours alone with President Xi. I know him well, as we understand one another. And what we have made clear, the President and I, is cooperation with China is vital to address climate change, non-proliferation, stability in the Korean Peninsula, global health and development. But even as we talk about cooperation, there will be areas of competition. And I want to make it clear, we have told President Xi, individually and collectively, that we want China to succeed, and we welcome the competition. Competition is stamped into the DNA of all Americans. But as the President and I have made clear, it's important for China to be not only a responsible stakeholder in the international community, but a responsible competitor as well. And if they are not, we will respond. And in some areas, they have not been a responsible competitor. Cyber threat is a glaring example. And we will not hesitate to speak out and demand respect for civil society and basic human rights. We've also been clear that China and the neighboring states must respect the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea and in their air defense zones. I made it clear when I was last in China, immediately after the Chinese announced unilaterally the establishment of a air defense zone. I made it clear, we will not respect it. And then we flew our bombers directly through it to make it clear, we will not abide by any unilateral rule that impacts commerce or freedom of flight. We also told President Xi that we have always been and we will remain a Pacific power. Over 7,000 miles of the Pacific Ocean laps up on our shores. We are a Pacific power, and we will remain a Pacific power. In my personal conversation with the President, I made clear the reason for China's stability has been primarily the presence of America in the region for the past 70 years, maintaining this stability. And no nation has benefited more from that stability than China. On the other side of the Pacific equation, in the Western Hemisphere, we also have another transformational opportunity. For the first time in history, we can truly envision a hemisphere that's democratic and middle class, from Canada to Chile, and everywhere in between. But the keys to this transformative moment is to establish for the first time in our history a genuine trust and respect in the hemisphere. Toward that end, we've expanded our outreach to every country in the region. The battles of the past, so much division in the hemisphere. One reason why we made the historic change in our relationship with Cuba. The key to transformation ultimately, though, the key to transformation ultimately in this hemisphere is gaining the respect and trust of the region. Establish a relationship based on mutual respect. I made a speech in Colombia that I now have heard repeated by almost every president in South America. I said, it's no longer what we can do for you, it's what we can do with you. And it's amazing. It's amazing the impact that one phrase has had in the hemisphere. And toward that objective, it's absolutely necessary we have a rational and the President asked me to lead our work in the Americas, to strengthen our relationships, and to take advantage of the potential for the benefit of all the citizens of this hemisphere. And that's why over the last 3 years I've to tackle challenges from energy, Caribbean, to violence and poverty in Central America, to accelerating economic cooperation with Mexico, and testing the limits of our relationship with Brazil. But there are a lot of tough choices that still have to be made. In some places, that means demanding elites pay their fair share in order to put police on their own streets, provide basic services, end corruption, respond to the poor. It means tackling corruption head on. The President and I understand how difficult this is going to be, but we also see the limitless potential of this hemisphere if we work together and can get this done. Harry Truman announced his doctrine in 1977. In the current world order, he said, responsibilities must by the swift. At this inflection point in 2015, another set of swift movements places upon us great usher in the next era.
You know, perhaps this is when I should go ahead and transition over because my feed gets gradually worse. And, well, now it looks like it's getting better, so maybe I should head back there.
If we lead the way, that is our vital interest while bringing the international community along with us, we can make the world a more just and secure place. National responsibility in 2015.
Oh, there we go. Starting to lose that connection again. We can stay, however, with this theme of presidential candidates, which is my favorite theme. I love politics. I should reword that. I love Donald Trump. He cracks me up. But let's stay with the politics theme and watch some campaign 2015 stories thanks to Fox News National.
We should campaign con brazos abiertos, with our arms wide open.
Jeb Bush is still speaking Spanish and lashing out against Donald Trump after Trump called on the former Florida governor to speak English while in America.
There's one candidate in the Republican Party that is preying on people's angst and fears.
But a new national poll shows Bush dropping to third place. Neurosurgeon Ben Carson sits comfortably in second. Trump has widened his lead while making a promise to the Republican Party.
I will be totally pledging my allegiance to the Republican Party and the conservative principles for which it stands.
Trump signed the RNC pledge not to run as a third-party candidate if he loses and to support whoever the GOP nominates. The real estate mogul previously floated the idea he'd go rogue from the party. Other Republicans joined Trump today in agreeing to the pledge.
I think if you're running for the Republican nomination for president, you should be willing to be able to support the Republican nominee.
Democrat frontrunner Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, remains under scrutiny. Her former State Department aide, Cheryl Mills, testifying today behind closed doors before a congressional committee investigating Benghazi and Clinton's private emails at the time of the 2012 terror attack. Bernie Sanders continues to nip on Hillary Clinton's heels as a new poll of Iowa voters shows Sanders closing in on Clinton. In Washington, Joel Waldman, Fox News.
Today at 2 p.m., the outsider turned frontrunner Donald Trump is going to sit down with the Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus. And their meeting comes as word leaks out about a new plan for the party to put pressure on the billionaire businessman. The Donald is dominating in the polls, but party bigwigs worry that his blunt message and his sizable crowd could still be used to stage a one-of-a-kind independent party run. That's why the Republican National Committee has been privately reaching out to other campaigns, asking them to sign a special pledge. If they don't win the GOP nomination, they won't run as a third-party candidate, something that so far Trump has resisted.
Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump.
On the Democratic side, the candidate with the cloudiest intentions is still the Vice President Joe Biden. Will he or won't he? Democratic sources have told Fox in recent days that Biden will challenge Hillary Clinton if her national level of support dips below 40%. And the Real Clear Politics average of the newest polls shows she's got a ways to go till that happens. But as President Obama toured Alaska Wednesday, Biden visited the perennial swing state Florida, where at a community college, he told students about his philosophy, and it could be a hint about an uphill climb to become the commander-in-chief.
And people who aren't willing to risk failing never succeed.
Remember, anytime the White House is asked about the prospect of a Biden run, they remind reporters about how critical he has been to the administration's efforts over the last 6+ years. But they refuse to offer an early endorsement. In Washington, Peter Ducey, Fox News.
A big change could shake up the list of Republican candidates participating in CNN's upcoming presidential debate. The network will now use more recent polls to determine which candidates can take part in the primetime debate, and that could open the door to Carly Fiorina, previously shut out because she polled too low earlier this summer.
She can handle this. She throws punches. She's tough, and she has a strong command of the facts at her disposal. That being said, it's going to be pretty ugly up there, and she will have to bring her A game.
Things are heating up between the candidates who held the top 2 spots in last month's GOP debate on Fox. Donald Trump and Jeb Bush both attacking each other in campaign videos.
If you're attacked, you have to attack back, and Trump is going to go around and pick people off as he feels is necessary in order to garner attention.
On the Democratic side, the spotlight's back on Hillary Clinton after the State Department released thousands more of her private emails, but 125 of them are censored for information now deemed classified.
Information that was shared at the time might, years later, be considered to be sensitive. And again, looking at it through the prism that we're ultimately going to release it publicly, that does add an element to all of this.
New polls could also boost Dr. Ben Carson's standing in the Republican presidential race. They show him gaining ground on Donald Trump. He's now second among the 17 GOP candidates in Iowa. In Washington, Kristen Fisher, Fox News.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump maintains a comfortable lead in an average of recent national polls. But his advantage is somewhat narrowing, with GOP rival Dr. Ben Carson closing in. After a successful turn at the first primary debate last month, Carson has seen his profile and his fundraising go up, with some $6 million collected last month.
The Iowa voter, the South Carolina voter, and the New Hampshire voter, they're going to be the ones that really matter. And if you're not able to stay in the hunt through those first three, then it gets a little bit more challenging.
Former Texas Governor Rick Perry is among those hovering near the bottom of most national polls. In New Hampshire, Trump leads handily, but Ohio Governor John Kasich is also polling well. He's in second place in the latest surveys.
My message for America is count our blessings, build the stronger institutions, a stronger economy, don't leave anybody behind, and lift everyone.
Meanwhile, Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton continues to deal with the fallout from the release of thousands of her emails. Vice President Joe Biden talks education in the battleground state of Florida, as he's said to be contemplating a potential challenge to Clinton as well, but a deadline looms no more than the next month.
People who aren't willing to risk failing never succeed.
Back to Republicans. In New Hampshire, John Kasich's building momentum, and that's a serious threat to Jeb Bush, both of whom consider this to be their must-win states. And don't forget Chris Christie. He's also said if he doesn't do well here, it could be tough to do anywhere else. In Manchester, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
New at 6, big protest at the Capitol. Education groups want lawmakers back in session to settle an ongoing education funding lawsuit. State lawmakers are on recess until January. Jessica Flores joins us live, and they think they're going to get them back in session, huh?
Yeah, Troy, well, this lawsuit has dragged on for 5 years, and it all goes back to the recession when lawmakers put a voter-mandated law on hold. Now, that law requires education funding to keep up with inflation. Now, education groups are demanding a special legislative session to end this legal battle.
Governor Ducey, pay your bills. That was the message in front of the state capitol today, as more than a dozen education groups called for Ducey to settle the education funding lawsuit
and resolve this funding crisis now.
The education advocates want the governor to call a special session and use the state's budget surplus to pay schools about $300 million. A judge ruled the public schools are owed the money after the state stopped funding education at the rate of inflation.
That $300 million, $325 million that might result in $300 per student, that is but a sliver of a pie that is owed since 2008. So I don't want to say that it's going to have a fundamental change, but it is the beginning of an important transition for education in Arizona.
Ducey's office responded to the protesters, saying in part, "These folks are a little late to the game." Governor Ducey has been calling for an end to this lawsuit since his first week in office and is open to any discussion that puts more money in our schools and doesn't raise taxes. He's also put forward a plan to put $2.2 billion into our schools for our kids. Ducey's plan would use money from trust land sales to fund education. But it would also need to be approved by lawmakers who don't reconvene until January, and the plan would require voter approval. Critics say Ducey's plan does not address the immediate need.
There's money currently sitting in both the rainy day fund and in a state surplus. So there's money today to resolve that if they wanted to.
Well, currently, the state legislature is appealing the court order to pay schools $300 million. We reached out to leaders in the state legislature for comment, but we haven't heard back from them at the time of this broadcast. Reporting live, I'm Jessica Flores, Fox 10 News.
Press pull, you want some treats? Anybody? Got a tagger? All right, you guys put your orders in.
Here's some video of Obama stopping in Alaska for some ice cream. We see a lot of videos like this from some of the politicians. We watched Scott Walker eat ice cream yesterday out of Texas. This just seems like a typical campaign or political fun stop to give locals a little press, PR. But this is President Barack Obama in Alaska trying out some ice cream.
Which one's this? Chocolate? Pete, you want some?
I like his jacket. I'd wear it.
You like that. You told me you did.
The first lady texted him said only vegetables.
Chocolate cone or cup? Cup. Hope, you got yours? Anybody else? Paul? You on one? You're good? Last call. Sorbet. Going once, going twice. Last good.
Involved in all sorts of things that doesn't need to be involved in.
This is about 15 minutes. This is about 15 minutes of what I caught of Marco Rubio speaking earlier this afternoon. Again, he is a GOP candidate that is currently hitting the campaign trail pretty hard, and we should expect to see him in the CNN debate go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump here in a few weeks.
Involved in all sorts of things it doesn't need to be involved in. But the one thing it must do is it must keep us safe, and it is failing. And the world today is growing increasingly dangerous. You have a lunatic in North Korea who possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range missile that can already reach the United States. The Chinese are rapidly expanding their military capabilities. In fact, last night... Is she okay?
Whoa, what are we witnessing? What? What are we witnessing? We have to go back and see this. What is this?
You have a lunatic in North Korea who possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range missile that can already reach the United States. The Chinese are rapidly expanding their military capabilities. In fact, last night... Is she okay? She locked her knees. She just locked her knees. Okay. All right. Very good. She's okay.
What just happened?
The Chinese are rapidly expanding their military capabilities. They hack into our computers. They steal our government secrets. They steal your private information. They're building artificial islands in the South China Sea, the most important shipping lane in the world. In Europe, you have a gangster in Moscow, and I don't mean that term affectionately. Okay? A gangster in Moscow who is threatening the unity of Europe and is trying to destroy NATO. Then you have dozens of countries, you have radical jihadists spreading across multiple continents, and they even recruit Americans using social media to attack us here at home. And last but not least, you have Iran on the verge of acquiring a nuclear weapon and a long-range missile capable of reaching the United States of America. These are extraordinary threats that the next president of the United States will meet. That's why it's so important that we remain the strongest military power on the planet. We must rebuild our military. Today it is being eviscerated. Rebuilding our military means we have to have the mechanisms, the money, the spending on national security defense. Before we fund anything else at the federal level, we should be funding national security. But it also means honoring those who serve us and have served us in uniform. Here in Chattanooga, we were tragically recently reminded that every man and woman in uniform serving our country is in danger here and around the world. And we must always ensure, whether they're in a recruiting station or stationed halfway around the world, that they have the ability to defend themselves against any threat. And when their time in uniform is done, we must take care of them. We owe that obligation to them. It is a moral obligation. It is also a national security obligation. It will not be easy to recruit people to join in all volunteer armed forces if they know this country doesn't take care of our men and women when they come home. And today we're failing in that endeavor. Last night there was a new report. And according to this report, 200,000 to 300,000 veterans died while waiting for care at the VA. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. We see it every day. I'm sure your home state senators here in Tennessee, they see it. We see it in Florida. I'm not saying there are good people that work at the VA. If any of you have ever interacted at the VA, you know that there are good people working there. It isn't fair to them that there are also people working there that aren't doing their jobs. And that's why last year I passed a law that gave the Secretary of the VA the power to fire someone who wasn't doing their job. I know that's startling to you that you need a law to make that possible. But we needed to pass a law, and we did. You know how many people they fired? 1. And what it reminds you of is you can pass any law you want. If you don't have a commander-in-chief that will enforce it, it won't matter. When I'm president, we will. When I'm president, we will. When I am president, we are going to have a VA that cares more about veterans than it does about the job security of a federal bureaucrat. And I'll close on national security by saying we need a foreign policy of moral clarity. What does that mean? People say. Well, here's what it means. It means that our allies know they can trust us, and our adversaries know not to test us. So you may say, well, that makes sense. Why would you even have to explain that? Here's why. Because we have the direct opposite right now. It's startling. We have a president that treats the Ayatollah in Iran with more respect than the Prime Minister of Israel. That's unacceptable. And we could actually say that about several allies in the world, but here's why I focus on Israel. Because it is the only pro-American, free enterprise democracy in the entire Middle East. If there were more pro-American, free enterprise democracies in the Middle East, my foreign policy speeches would be a lot shorter. But there's only one. And when I'm president, the world will know that this country will do whatever it takes to ensure that Israel survives and prospers as a Jewish state. So let me close by saying that these are our challenges. But embedded in all these challenges are extraordinary opportunities. I know that times are tough. They're difficult. It reminds us, though, that there's never been a time when we didn't face difficulty. This nation has never known a time where there weren't challenges. Ours is not a story of a country that never faced challenge. Ours is a story of 230 some odd years of a nation in which each generation did what needed to be done to ensure that their children lived a life and inherited a country better than their own. And we faced great challenges. The Civil War was an extraordinary challenge. We faced 2 world wars that were a great challenge. We faced the Great Depression. We faced the Cold War. The Vietnam era in the 1960s that seemed like it was going to split the country apart. That was an extraordinary challenge. We survived disco music in the 1970s, an incredible challenge. We faced challenges before. And each and every time that generation at that time rose to the occasion. They didn't just confront the challenges, they embraced the opportunities. And because they did, each generation before us has left the next better off. Now it's just our turn. Now the moment has come for this generation to do its part. To confront the challenges, and we can. But also to embrace the opportunities of this new era. But to do so will require us to turn the page. To turn the page on the ideas and the leaders from yesterday who can no longer solve the problems of today and tomorrow. Because the world has changed and we must change with it. And if all we do is keep electing the same people, we are going to continue to get the same results. It's not easy to move forward. I've met resistance every step of the way. In 2009, when I decided to run for the U.S. Senate, the entire political establishment came against me. Both in Washington, D.C. and in Florida. In fact, when I started running for the U.S. Senate, the only people that thought I could win, they all lived in my house. And 4 of them were under the age of 10. And now that I decided to run for president, I ran into the exact same thing. You need to wait your turn, they say. It's someone else's time. You haven't been around long enough. Well, there's the people that have been around long enough that got us into this mess to begin with. And so I'm not going to wait my turn because there is no such thing. For America, the future is now. The 21st century is here. And the choice we must make is, are we going to lead in the 21st century or will it leave us behind? Because if we are willing to lead, then the 21st century is going to be greater than the 20th century. And our children won't just be as well off as we were. They will be better off. They will be the freest and most prosperous Americans that have ever lived. This is the extraordinary opportunity before us, and now we must seize it. And we all have an obligation to do that. But I've always felt a special obligation to this country. For while America owes me absolutely nothing, I have a debt to America that I will never be able to repay. You see, America isn't just the country I was born in. This is the country that literally changed the history of my family. When my father was 9 years old, his mother died and he had to go work and leave school. The reason being is my parents, my grandparents, they had a little catering business. My grandmother, who I never met, would cook, and my grandfather, who I never met, would deliver the food to the workers at the cigar factory in Havana. And then she died in her mid-40s. And so the business was gone. And my father had to quit going to school and go to work to help support himself and his siblings. And he would never go back to school. And he would work for the next 70 years of his life. Now, when he was a young man and even a young boy, he had big dreams because young people have big dreams. But his dreams became impossible, at least his dreams for himself. And so when my parents came to America, they created a new dream. It became the purpose of their life. And it was this. They wanted to make sure that what happened to them never happened to us. They wanted to make sure that we would have the chance to be anything we wanted. That whatever dream and hope we had, we could pursue. That all the doors that had closed for them would open for us. That was the purpose of their life. As I told you earlier, my father worked as a bartender, primarily banquets in a hotel. And that means he stood behind a small little portable bar in the back of the banquet hall on nights, on weekends, on holidays, on days I'm sure he didn't want to go work. Well into his 70s, he worked behind that bar. My father stood behind that bar for all those years, so one day I could stand here before you now. And the journey from behind that bar to the life I live today, aspiring to the highest office in the land, that journey is the essence of the real American dream. It's what makes us different. It's what makes us special. And it's not just my story, it's your story. For here in America, every single one of us is just a generation or two removed from someone who did that for us. Every single one of us is but a generation or two removed from someone who made our future the very purpose of their lives. And whether we remain a great country or not will be determined by whether that journey is still possible. So I end this speech where I began. I want this country to still be a place where people can do for their children what my parents did for me and what your parents did for you. I want this to continue to be a place where people can make that journey your parents made and that mine made. The journey from behind that bar to the front of this room. And I believe that not only can we keep that journey possible, we can make it possible for more people than ever before. Not only can we save the American dream, we can expand it to reach more people and change more lives than ever. And if we do, here's what history will say about us. It will say that like the generations before us, we also faced great challenges, but we did not back down. That in the early years of this new century, facing extraordinary challenges in a changing and uncertain world, we rose up to the task. We confronted our challenges and we embraced our opportunities. And because we did, our children were the freest and most prosperous Americans that ever lived. And the 21st century was also an American century. So thank you for having me. God bless all of you. Thank you.
I want to know why a guy brought a baseball for Marco Rubio to sign. Like, it's not like he's Jose Canseco. That's Marco Rubio. That's not Jose Canseco. Why are you handing me a baseball? Or maybe he's trying to do a series of presidential candidates signing baseballs. That I could probably justify. Perhaps. Cameraman giving us some room angles. Getting creative there with that camera. Let's go back. Well, are we going to get some more Marco? Let's see here. If we're going to get, well, oh, there's a chandelier for you. I don't know what the significance of only half of it being lit is. Let's jump back to some local headlines, though. What do you think? And I have to turn the volume up here. Give me 2 seconds.
Millions of dollars from us, the taxpayers. Tonight, I'm going to get to some other news of the day now. Fox follow-up from yesterday involving a state employee accused of stealing millions of dollars from us, the taxpayers. Tonight, prosecutors are giving us a closer look at the alleged scheme behind this. Andrew has been live with more on the story. Andrew?
Troy, according to prosecutors, this went on since 2006. The primary suspect was the head of procurement for Access, the state's Medicaid program. Prosecutors believe he and an associate defrauded the state of anywhere from $1.5 to as much as $10 million, and it appears they may have been getting ready to flee the country. Investigators say 35-year state employee Michael Veit and an associate, Michael Cameron, worked together to steal potentially millions of dollars from the state Medicaid program Access, money that prosecutors believe was distributed to family members who own this large home in Surprise and this gated compound in North Phoenix.
Considerable and unusual cash amounts were found in the possession of one of Mr. Veit's sons, who had $200,000 cash in his house and $17,000 in his wife's purse.
Special agents with the Attorney General's office arrested Veit yesterday at his North Phoenix home. Cameron was arrested at his condo in a gated community in Paradise Valley. The judge set their bond at $1 million. Prosecutors feared they would flee the country.
At this point, we did not find the passport belonging to Mr. Cameron, but were given information by a bank that he'd withdrawn approximately $42,000 over the past week and expressed that he was planning a trip to Belize.
According to court documents, Veit funneled money into an account set up with the same name as a company Access worked with, Icon Office Solutions. So while it appeared he was paying the legitimate company, potentially millions of dollars went into the bogus bank account.
The legitimate Icon, with whom they contracted and did services, said that they had been paid 10.13 approximately million less than Access believed they had paid.
So you heard that right. $10.3 million is the possible total amount taken from Access over a period of about 9 years. Both men are still in jail, and the AG's office says this investigation continues. More arrests could be on the way. I'm Andrew Hasbun, Fox 10 News.
A Mesa woman says that her dog saved her life, alerting her when her home was on fire. That fire also damaging her parents' home as well, and the woman's dad is a retired Mesa Fire Department battalion chief. Anita Roman spoke to both of them as they surveyed all of the damage today.
When I got to the gate, the neighbors took the two cages, and then I turned around, called them, and they didn't come. So then I just went and ran back up there.
Judy Waters says once her Chihuahua and Bird were safe, she knew she had to run back into her burning home to save the other two dogs, especially Jules, who had saved her just minutes ago.
As I'm carrying her, I'm looking at it, just rolling into that Arcadia door, and thought, oh my gosh, this is how people die.
I noticed the flames in the back garden. And then I opened the door, and they were quite big, and then I dialed 911, and Judy came out with her dogs.
It was after 11 Wednesday night. Stephen Waters, a retired Mesa Fire Department battalion chief, ran out to make sure his daughter, who lives above his garage, was okay. It turns out her Portuguese water dog did the same thing.
It was a very high-pitched alert, bark, 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 and she went out. I heard her skid, turned around and came back in and bark, 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 bark.
Those are the Arcadia doors from her bedroom that Waters says her dog ran from after noticing the fire.
If she was in her kennel, she would have laid there, slept through it. I would have heard her whine. I would have ignored her.
I've been to lots of house fires in my life, but this is the only one like this that was mine.
The family is devastated. The main house has major smoke damage, and Judy's home was destroyed. Just like Nori, her pet poodle, everyone is shaken up. But they know they can rebuild and are grateful they survived. Anita Roman, Fox 10 News.
Waters lost everything in the fire. The cause is still under investigation. And how's this for some bad luck today? The retired chief was actually building cabinets in his garage for his youngest son's home, which also burned down last year.
Former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer prevails in getting online ads that depict her in a very negative light off the internet. She threatened legal action this week over these ads that used unflattering images of her to sell beauty products and procedures. And one of the ads even claimed her husband divorced her for being too old, which is not true. Also encouraged users to click to see her revenge makeover. Well, tonight, 2 online marketing companies say they're taking down those ads and will not use them in the future. And joining us now, former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Troy. It's great to be with you.
I wish we were seeing you under better circumstances, but you've been through a lot in the last few months.
I have.
So tell us about these internet ads. When was the first you heard about them or saw them? Tell me about that.
It was about 6 months ago. I noticed it on there because somebody had mentioned to me that it was up there. And of course, it's on all the pages that I read. And so I saw it one day, and so I looked at it. And of course, I was humiliated and also hurt. And thought, well, eventually it would go away. And then they kept coming up, and then I clicked, and they would go to a plastic surgeon or they'd go to products, and I thought, well, they'll give it up. But it just got out of control. I mean, absolutely out of control. And people were talking about it everywhere that I went.
Right.
They wanted to talk about my husband divorcing me, whom I've been married to almost 50 years.
Because one of the ads, explain that, because one of the ads said something about that, right? What did the ad say?
Right, they said that my husband divorced me because of my old age and my looks. And then I had a revenge makeover. And of course, those things are hurtful. They're just absolutely hurtful. And they didn't have permission to use my image. They lied, they were mean, and they were hateful. And it was all done for profit for them. And of course, it's coined, what is it, clicks.
Oh yeah, clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait.
Right.
And so obviously it was getting lots of hits because it stayed up there for so long.
Kept it up.
And it was on, 4 different pictures. And so I, it's not tolerable. And they were making a profit off of my image. And that's wrong. And it's illegal.
Can we talk about something that's more fun?
What?
Just in a very general sense. You say you're enjoying what's going on politically right now.
Yes, I am. I have been through a lot of presidential elections, and I think it's been the most exciting ever. And that we've got people on both sides of the aisle out there, and they're out there talking to the people, and there's a lot of scraping and scrapping going on. And I think that it's ignited America, the United States, and that more people are paying attention, and they definitely want straight shooters and straight talkers and truth tellers. And I love it. I love it. I just think it's exciting. I can't get enough of it. I thought maybe it would all fizzle out, but it hasn't.
Right.
It just continued to go. I can't wait to watch the presidential primary at the Reagan Library on the 16th of September.
It seems like it's almost the year of the anti-politician in a way, where you've got, at least on the GOP side, you've got 3 of the top people who've never held office before. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does surprise me, because you would think that the seasoned politicians, which I believe being a politician is an honorable profession, but I know from experience, people like truth tellers. They like straight talkers, because I think that's what people have told and saw me as a straight talker, a truth teller. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that, and now it's driving everybody else to be a little bit more straightforward and talking the language that people understand.
Governor Brewer, really nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you.
And good luck with this issue going forward.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that was taped earlier, and you can watch my entire interview with Jan Brewer, including some behind-the-scenes stuff before and after the interview. It's all up there, unedited, on my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Troy Hayden Fox 10 if you're interested. Still ahead.
That was cool the way Troy Hayden did that. I've got some more local stories, so let's get through these local stories, and then we'll head into some national stories.
Well, here we go again. It's been a wild week when it comes to our weather, and more storms now moving across parts of the valley. This is a live ADOT shot near I-10 and Chandler Boulevard, and what do you see there, Kara?
It almost looks like fog.
Yeah.
It's not. It's dust and just gunk in the air. Sky Fox over the scene as a wall of dust moved through. This was around 1:30 this afternoon. This is near Interstate 10 on Riggs Road. And it really didn't take long for that dust wall to make its way right into downtown Phoenix.
Our tower cam caught it. The dust moving into the Phoenix metro area. So this is looking south, kind of down into the Ahwatukee area. You see South Mountain in the foreground, and that dust comes right over the top.
And check out the dark clouds in Maricopa over the noon hour. They got pummeled with the big storm clouds there, a big, heavy area of rain. This strong storm is the one that collapsed and sent the wall of dust heading north. This is thanks to Jennifer Brewer for sharing it with us on Facebook.
Yeah, good shot there. And Ruben Rodriguez took this picture. This is the Loop 202 in the Santan Freeway. And again, you can see that really well-defined wall of dust as it kicked up and headed all the way through the valley.
And we have team coverage of this latest monsoon storm. You can see it's still blowing out there. Nicole Garcia was in South Phoenix when that storm rolled through.
Danielle Miller caught up with some hikers way up on Camelback Mountain who got caught off guard there.
But we begin with Steve Kraft streaming live from Arizona City. You were in a dust storm earlier today, and now it looks like you're about to get blown over, Steve.
I'm in a howling wind. Look at my pants. They're just flipping around here. It is crazy out here. I don't know what the deal is. A howling wind, lots of rain, lots of dust. Want to start by showing you that wall of dust. We went down to Maricopa. We were looking, of course, at the radar maps. Once we got to Maricopa, we saw that dust advancing from Casa Grande. We were driving on the Casa Grande highway there. You can see this video of the dust approaching. It got really pretty difficult to see very far ahead of us. And then the rain started hitting the windshield shortly after that, and a rainstorm developed. I want to show you the next piece of video we have in Arizona City, where they had lots of rain today, and that rain collecting as it does in the low spots in intersections, especially cars having a little bit of difficulty. They really had to take it easy going through those intersections. We did not see flooding. We saw a lot of standing water and people dealing with it very carefully. Here's what one woman had to say about the rain in Arizona City.
A lot of rain coming down. My backyard looks like a swamp. Looks like I got frogs and stuff all over in my yard. Halfway here, nothing. Get on into Casa Grande, pouring down on Pert Road, man, and it was like, my car's gonna float away because I'm used to driving a big truck.
Well, that's about the situation. People are dealing with it, and now I never thought I would say this, but it's kind of chilly out here. The wind is howling. It's in the mid-70s, something like that, and I kind of need a jacket. Reporting live from Arizona City, Steve Kraft, Fox 10 News.
Thank you, Steve. Be careful out there. Sky Fox capturing the dust as it really blew through Sky Harbor Airport and brought the visibility down quite a bit. You can see here some of the planes still taking off and landing, and we checked with the airport. This was not, after all, a massive dust storm, so there were no significant delays there.
ADOT now camera looking south from the 101 in Glendale, and off to the left there you see the University of Phoenix Stadium. A little bit of a time lapse here as the dust comes through and heads off to the north. It thins out a bit, but again, east to west, it kind of hit the whole valley, didn't it,
Yeah, it
Karen?
really did. And let's go live to Sky Fox. Sky Fox over that second wall of dust as it moves on in. A lot of people, especially in the West Valley, were hoping to get some rain, and it looks like they're getting a dose of dust. Hopefully some rain will follow. Fox 10's Nicole Garcia continues our team coverage. She ran into the dust as it passed right through South Phoenix, and she's live tonight with more. It's always interesting out there. I mean, you literally get dust in your teeth and in your eyes.
Ears.
Yeah, Carrie, and we are in the path of the second round. This is the second dust storm that is currently rolling through the valley right now. Literally, right when you guys tossed to me, the wind kicked up. You're looking in the direction of South Mountain. Just 5 minutes ago, you could see South Mountain. Now you can't, because this second round, the second wall of dust is coming over South Phoenix. It went over South Mountain. It's coming over South Phoenix right now as we speak. We are feeling some raindrops coming down as well, and you can certainly hear that wind howling right now. So we had a bit of a 3-hour break between the two dust storms. We saw that one earlier come in, and right now we are in the middle of the second round that is coming over South Mountain and through South Phoenix right now. And I don't know if you can see, you can still kind of see the skyline for downtown Phoenix, but that soon is going to disappear and be enveloped in this second dust storm that is rolling through South Phoenix right now. But it doesn't look as powerful or feel as powerful as the one that came in a few hours earlier. You can check out some of the video that we shot a little bit earlier. That definitely stalled or slowed traffic down on I-10, and cars were still able to drive through it. It wasn't a dust storm that reduced visibility by too much. There were still visibilities for about 1 mile to 2 miles, so it didn't get too bad. But again, let's come back out live right now, because we are literally in the midst of this second dust storm. Right around just before 5 o'clock, we were watching this cloud of dust come come toward us, not knowing if it was going to reach us, but here it is right now. So the temperatures have definitely dropped several degrees. We are seeing all the tree branches swaying and whipping around in the wind. I'm getting some dust in my eyes right now. Definitely some rain coming down as we speak. So here it is, round 2. I don't think it's as bad as the one that came in a few hours earlier, but again, we are in a cloud of dust as another dust storm rolls through South Phoenix. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Nicole. Be careful out there. And here's a live look outside of our tower cam at South Mountain. Look at how the visibility has come down.
Yeah, what visibility? There's not much at all.
The sun is still up, believe it or not, but it almost looks like it's, it's nighttime. There is the sun behind the clouds there and all of the dust. And Dave joins us with a look at the radar. Too bad we don't see the dust on the radar, because it would just be who knows what color behind you.
Might not see the rain and the other things with the dust showing up on there, Carrie. And Nicole said it right. It is the second round of storms, the second round of dust that is finding its way into the valley tonight. And we're going to answer a question that Steve Kraft asked here a minute ago. What's going on? Well, take a look at it. You can see the moisture here. You can see it working up a pretty big batch out of the south. It's not coming directly at us here. It's coming kind of toward the east, as you can see, but there's enough of it that it's going to engulf us. And then we have to look back here at this situation, which is rolling along pretty good right now as well. You can see this stuff coming in from the west, coming in from the south. So there is a lot going on. And as you can see here, more moisture coming in from the south. And once again, Steve Kraft going, what's going on? Let's take a look. It's Kevin, a tropical storm, which is to the south of us here. And look at Kevin whipping all of that moisture up in our direction, continuing to do that. Somewhat stationary at this time, so it's going to continue to send moisture in our direction. We'll have more on this coming up.
And so, Dave just mentioned it, 2 rounds of dust, 2 dust walls moving in. And this is live Sky Fox pictures, and you see this is the second round of it coming in. The first one between 1 and 2 o'clock, rolled into downtown Phoenix at 2. And here's the second one.
Yeah, odd, unusual. You don't see this very often. You usually see the one big dust and then sometimes rain, but dust after dust?
Especially after that big storm we had Monday. My yard is still wet. If you tried to create dust in my yard, it wouldn't work. But in some areas, they didn't get any rain on Monday.
Well, the storm blew in very quickly, the first storm and the second storm. And how would you like to be way up high on Camelback Mountain and all of a sudden you look and you see that thing coming out and you think, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm very exposed. Danielle Miller talked to some people who did that, and she's live now with their story. I'm sure that's not the most comfortable situation, Danielle.
Yeah, that's right, guys. A little bit different situation out here right now. Wind's picking up just a little bit, but definitely nothing like Nicole, what she's dealing with out there. But Camelback Mountain right now, right behind me here, you can see it is clear. The neighborhood right here below the mountain clear as well at this hour. But earlier, as we were driving into this area, you could barely see the mountain in the distance. Now, not too many hikers out there this afternoon earlier when we went up to the mountain, but we did catch up with one hiker who was actually just getting down from the mountain after the dust storm hit. Now, she was actually at the top when the dust storm surrounded the entire mountain. She did snap a few photos before heading back down, but she said that she could barely see anything in front of her.
Barely. I mean, I was looking out over, it was south, down, at ASU and stuff, and I couldn't see anything. But I took a picture to just, see where the storm came in, and you could see Camelback, that trail. And it was coming hard, so I just went back down.
And Anna, that hiker you just heard from there, said that she actually had to seek shelter behind one of the rocks when the dust storm hit at its peak there. She said that although it was a little bit scary out there earlier this afternoon, she says it was actually pretty cool to witness a dust storm that she's heard of so many times, to witness it firsthand. Reporting live, Danielle Miller, Fox 10 News.
Thank you, Danielle. A lot of people sharing their pictures and videos with us, and want to take a look at it using the hashtag Fox10Weather. You can also send them to Fox 10 Phoenix as well. Take a look here. This is the one Danielle just shared up at the top of Camelback. I can't think of a scarier place to be when a big storm moves in. So that's kind of an interesting one. And here's one. The storm is brewing, that's for sure. I like this one. I know that all of you ASU fans will like it. Wow, House of Sparky. Live look at Phoenix right now. It looks like Sparky's in complete control there. Not at all nervous. And here's just some of the dark storm clouds that we're seeing. Nicole Garcia sharing this from her location of some of the storm clouds. And look at this ADOT picture. Arizona Department of Transportation, in case you can't see it, the sign warns of blowing dust and low visibility. Delay travel on I-10 toward Tucson. That's always kind of a dangerous little spot, a treacherous area to drive when you get those really strong crosswinds. I-10, Phoenix to Tucson, can be very dangerous during dust storms and strong winds.
Cool shots, as always. And the cleanup from Monday's monsoon, they're still dealing with that. Keeping the Phoenix Zoo closed for a third day in a row, but it will reopen tomorrow morning, we understand, at 9 o'clock if you want to get out there. And I bet it's changed the look.
I wonder if they got that antelope kind of rounded up, or is he still roaming around having a good time?
That's probably one of the first things they did, I would imagine. I don't know. The storm knocked down or damaged big trees out there, so crews using heavy equipment to remove debris and clean up the exhibits. No animals were hurt, and all of them are accounted for, including that antelope care. The zoo had never been closed multiple days in a row, and it's nearly 53-year history. So still a few weeks of the monsoon left. If you haven't downloaded our Fox 10 weather app, it's very cool, and it's free. It's at fox10phoenix.com, and Fox 10 News continues after this.
Your exclusive AccuWeather forecast with Dave Muncy on Fox 10 News.
Well, hi, everybody. Boy, I'll tell you, yeah, the wind is blowing, the dust is moving in. This was a storm earlier that we had out there blowing in. We got another one coming in now. And it's unusual to get two dust storms in the same afternoon, but we are experiencing it this afternoon. And visibility has been reduced to about a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile, half a mile, somewhere in there. And that is a live shot from our tower cam. So you can see the dust, but you can see the broken sky up here as well. So we'll keep our eye on that. But when you see the radar picture, you're going to see something entirely different. 95 degrees. We've got some clouds out there. We have some rain out there, as a matter of fact. Out of the south at 15 on the winds. We have 55 degrees on the dew point, 26% on the humidity. Expect that to go up here shortly. 96 in Deer Valley right now, 91 at Cave Creek, 91 in Mesa. We have 97 in Glendale, 94 in Ahwatukee. As we get you a look at what's going on with the radar, when I say there's a lot going on, we have it from the west here, we have it from the south here, and we have a big batch from the southeast that is working its way in our direction. All of this stuff is trying to go to the east, but as you get a look at it here, you can see that it is working its way toward the valley, especially this stuff on the west side. This is the stuff that I'm keeping my eye on. The south, the stuff from the south seems to wear out very rapidly, but you can see a little bit of encroachment from the east, and then when you have this stuff from the west and the south work its way in here, we could be in for some pretty good storms through the night tonight. You see the advisories for flooding. There is a watch for severe thunderstorm activity down by Tucson, and also there's some very active weather in the east and in the northeastern portion of our state with some severe thunderstorm watches, a few flood advisories in those areas as well. But once again, a very busy night, and here's what's feeding it. Tropical storm Kevin off to the south of us here, pumping a lot of moisture up into the state. We go to 100 degrees for the high today. The record is 112. The norm is 103. As we get you a look at some of the other numbers from around the state, 98 at Gila Bend, 94 at Kingman, 85 at Payson, 74 up in Flagstaff. This is your normal line. We're going to be below it. You can see, though, we do get back to those triple digits in our 10-day forecast. This is your day. 100 on the high, 81 on the low, 103 and 81, normal high and low, record high 112, record low at 64. Now, overnight, we're going to be looking at that rain, 79 degrees for tomorrow, 97 degrees with a chance of rain. In fact, a chance of rain as we head into and through the weekend. Those temperatures in the upper 90s through Saturday. Then we get back into the triple digits after that. Watch your kids around water.
Thank you, Dave.
And that weather was for my buddy Ale, who's always asking me what the status of the weather is. And I would not consider myself in any way, shape, or form a weather expert, so I prefer to have Dave Muncy give you that. But he did say there was a chance for storms tonight. Fingers crossed. I also heard earlier that Tucson really did get hit hard because I saw that they canceled an event. It was a tailgating event. So Dave is our weather wizard. Touchdown! Troy, that clapping is Troy watching the Cards games. He loves the Cards. It's a preseason game right now. We're currently ahead. We're playing the Denver Broncos, and I hope we win. And I really don't care about football, but I care about somebody that's associated with the Cardinals, so go Cards. Let's check out this story from... This is out of California. It's about Super Bowl rentals. We can relate to that here in Arizona.
Levi Stadium may be home to Super Bowl 50 next year, but this can be your home during the big game for the right price. Just behind this Atherton home on a gated property sits this guest house.
Living room, fireplace, Wi-Fi stereo.
Owner Jacek Rashiski is looking to rent the 1,000 square foot space with 2 bedrooms during Super Bowl 50.
For Super Bowl, we are renting for $2,200 a night.
That's right, $2,200 a night.
Why not? We have the space. The space is vacant, 8-9 months out of a year. It never hurts to get a little extra money for my son's college education.
He's not the only one posting a home for rent online during next year's Super Bowl. This listing asks for $35,000 to rent this 4-bedroom Los Altos house for 1 week. We even found someone trying to sell their existing Motel 6 reservation in San Jose for $650 a night.
We're sort of 5 months out now, and every month that goes by, inventory is going to go down. And as inventory goes down, the prices are going to go up.
David Andre with the Santa Clara Convention and Visitors Bureau says hotels near Levi Stadium are just about sold out. And ones along the historic El Camino Real are starting to fill up too. Rooms that typically cost $100 a night are going for 7 times as much. Andre says come game time, hotels from Santa Clara to San Francisco will be booked.
When you look at a Super Bowl, the hotels in the whole region traditionally sell out. A lot of people come into town for a Super Bowl. So this is not a competition. Everybody's going to get business, and that's great for the Bay Area.
It's no surprise the Santa Clara Hilton across the street from here is booked. A reservation agent recommended a hotel 3 miles away in San Jose that costs $750 a night with a 5-night minimum and no refunds and no cancellations. At Levi Stadium, Maureen Naylor, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Every Tuesday evening, the Bibb County Youth Cheerleading Squad practices. For their upcoming games, it's something parents say these girls love doing.
Her brother plays football, so she likes to cheer and be a part of that.
But right now, parents aren't as cheery. Bibb County investigators say Candace Foreman and Cody Daly stole thousands of dollars from the cheerleading squad. We're told the women were in charge of the squad's bank account. The money was supposed to go for new uniforms, but investigators say that never happened. They say the woman wrote several checks to cash.
So there's large amounts of cash that were used too. Investigators are trying to track that down and see what the suspects used that cash to purchase.
Investigators also found an active meth lab at Candace Foreman's home and believe some of the stolen money was being used to fund it. As you can imagine, some parents are beyond angry.
Basically, they took the money from the little girls, and all the little girls wanted to do are come out here and support their brothers. It's just heartbreaking to me because my daughter comes to me and asks, Mom, why do I not have a uniform?
Just disappointed that the children won't be able to do what they signed up to do and participate in some things they were excited about.
It's trouble at a home in Pontiac. Grandma is unconscious and her 7-year-old granddaughter picks up the phone.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
My grandmother is knocked out on the floor in the bathroom.
On University Drive in Pontiac, this was a real emergency for anyone, especially for a 7-year-old girl looking at her unresponsive grandmother. The Oakland County dispatcher obtains critical information from the granddaughter, while at the same time the dispatcher is sending an ambulance.
I'm 7 years old.
Okay, well, I'm going to have a few questions for you to help your grandma, okay?
Okay.
Okay, are you with her now?
Yes.
But grandma was still unresponsive.
Just really great composure for a young child to be in that situation and have grandma go down and have no idea what's going on, and very calm, cool, collected emergency dispatch activity there. So we're very proud of our specialist in dispatch as well.
2 Star ambulances are dispatched with both EMTs and paramedics.
Mike Ramalis and Rodney Wynn assess the patient, started the assessment, actually assist with the breathing for the patient, and actually put in an airway, we call it a nasal pharyngeal airway. She accepted that, and the paramedics began their treatment with Narcan.
The Narcan brought Grandma around, and she regained consciousness.
It's really somewhat of a miracle drug because it doesn't have very many, if any, side effects.
With Grandma revived, the Narcan worked on this accidental overdose of a prescription medication. They'll record it as another life-saving rescue since Oakland County began carrying Narcan in January. Oakland County has had 15 Narcan saves this year.
Literally, it's like throwing a light switch at just the right moment before they pass. And it gives them a second chance at life. And certainly those parents are appreciative that we're one of the agencies that pioneered the program. We helped get the law changed so we could carry it, and now we've been using it extensively.
The 2 paramedics I should mention is Rachel Raymond was the seasoned paramedic, but the other girl, Erica Sobolinski, that was her first shift. Very first shift, so indoctrination under fire, I guess.
Just a terrific outcome. So Grandma and her 7-year-old granddaughter have a wonderful story to tell. Ron Savage, Fox 2 News.
Meet Norm. He's a 4-year-old purebred black lab, and those who are familiar with the breed know very well they're natural swimmers. But Norm can also surf. A surfer dog wasn't his calling until later in life. Linda Herskowitz, a volunteer for Canine Companions for Independence, adopted him 2 years ago after he had a so-called career change in the program and wasn't fit to be an assistance dog. Go get it. Bring it. He already had the extensive training and loved helping people. Linda knew he was destined for bigger things.
They put him on the surfboard and the rest is history.
There you go, good boy.
They is Keith Lucchese and the surf instructors at Camp Anchor, a recreation program for children and adults with special needs.
As soon as we got here, I opened the door. He jumps right out of the car and runs straight down towards the beach. So he knows, and once he sees the surfboard, he just gets all excited.
He doesn't just surf for the fame and fun, he connects with campers like Danny Collins. When they watch Norm ride the waves, they try it for themselves and succeed while doing it.
Just the confidence that he has getting out on the water and standing up, it's just been an absolutely wonderful experience.
He goes all the way in up to the sand and he stands there waiting for them to push him back out again.
When he's not surfing, Norm's been known to cut the line, loves cookies for rewards, and belly rubs when he's done for the day. You could see Norm surf for yourself this coming Saturday on Lincoln Boulevard in Long Beach. He's raising money for the Tommy Brill Surf Program at Camp Anchor to continue letting special needs kids experience the joy of surfing. In Lido Beach, Jody Goldberg, Fox 5 News.
That was such a precious story. Probably my favorite of the day.
Very nervous. It's a nervous tension, but I'm very excited.
Veterans took the plunge.
They're all suited up. They're going to head down to this ramp.
At the Georgia Aquarium Wednesday.
And I hurt my back while I was there. No specific time, didn't have time to worry about it. We had too much stuff to do, so now I'm paying for it.
During a guided swim in the more than 6 million gallon tank, the injured veterans swam with whale sharks, manta rays, and other sea life.
It was just a piece. I was able to take my mind off of everything that has troubled me.
Michael Hillard was shot in the head while serving in Iraq. After recuperating, he re-enlisted and went back overseas. He says the water helped heal him when he came back home, and now is a dive master at the Georgia Aquarium.
When they first come in, they're just real shielded and kind of quiet, and when they get out, they're all smiles and can't stop talking about what they just experienced.
The trip made possible by the Wounded Warrior Project, an organization dedicated to helping active and retired military adapt after suffering life-altering injuries, while raising awareness and engaging the public's help in the needs of injured service members.
You're back with your buddies and you're able to connect with them and they're able to understand you.
These veterans say these experiences are not only fun, but help with the healing process.
Camaraderie, it's like I have friends again because after getting out, because of my illness, I kind of secluded myself. So it's like letting me live a life again. It's like having a new life, a new birth.
I'm going to transition into a few stories out of Florida. Let's see, I've got this officer denied service at Arby's story. We knew that was going to blow up, didn't we? Absolutely. And then interested in seeing this story about these siblings arrested in an airport. So let's dive into our Florida stories. Our Florida theme for the day.
We have a surprise for you guys.
No need for Pembroke Pines police officers to leave the building Thursday morning. Food came to them. McDonald's partnered with a local radio station to deliver bag after bag of pancakes and McMuffins.
Thank you.
Whole Foods also put out a spread, and local residents brought boxes of donuts and coffee.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the outpouring of support that we received from the community throughout this whole ordeal, and we're just very, very appreciative and humbled by it.
The ordeal happened Tuesday night at this Arby's in Pembroke Pines when a clerk reportedly didn't want to serve Sergeant Jennifer Martin in the drive-thru, and when she finally did get her food, she wasn't comfortable eating it. The clerk says it was all just a misunderstanding.
Would you ever refuse to serve a police officer a meal that she paid for?
For what? She's hungry. I'm gonna give her some food.
Arby's CEO was called to apologize, and the police department says the matter is closed. But that didn't stop McDonald's and Whole Foods from making sure the officers didn't have to leave the department for breakfast.
We're here today to show our love for the community and the people that take care of us as first responders in the community.
And I was going to try to go straight into some other Florida stories, but I think that there was an update to that in regards to Arby's, and I think there's been an update since there. So Arby's apologizes to the police officer after a report that the officer was denied. Is that the most recent one? I thought that there was more than that. This one or that. You've got to do more than just an apology. I was under the impression that they offered something for free or did something nice. If that's not the case, I'm going to be... If it's not the case, I'm going to be a little disappointed just by saying we're sorry. Sometimes that doesn't cut it. This is extremely poor PR for them.
No, it's second, but I just want to have... What I'll do...
So put them in, you know how to
I'll put them in the media app and then I'll call you and tell you what order.
Well, they apologized. Well, that's not the update I was going for. So I apologize for wasting your time. Let's jump into some more Florida stories.
This graffiti can accurately be described as mean-spirited and ignorant. The N word is used but misspelled. So is the word matter in the phrase Black Lives Matter for target practice.
And it seems to be getting more serious because this is, a threat. You're saying we're target practice. And, we're afraid.
Jamal Clark lives next door to the home vandalized last night, but he was also victimized twice. In late May, KKK stained his restored 1964 Chevy Impala, which he left in plain sight for a while.
I wanted to. It hurt my pride. It scared my family. I left it there because I wanted everyone to see that this still exists.
Then in June, his wife's vehicle was vandalized. No message this time, just damaging spray paint.
We've had a total of probably 7 together.
Pinellas Park police tell us only about half of the seemingly related graffiti cases have racial overtones. Last week, impeach Obama and another misspelling of the N-word appeared on this vehicle.
It's like, what the heck? And my first thought was, oh, this blows.
But all of this is happening in a quiet, well-kept area called the Lakes.
If you didn't know they were back there, you'd be hard-pressed to find the homes back in that particular area.
The latest victims are out of town, so city crews quickly obscured the ugly message. Clark prefers his strategy.
If you leave it up there, then it becomes a community issue. It's not just my issue or my neighbor's issue.
It is a derogatory statement and it's inflammatory, so the rest of the neighborhood may not feel the way that the neighbors feel.
There are detectives working a now consolidated case. These are felony vandalisms, and the element of hate can add to any jail time. In Pinellas County, Steve Nichols, Fox 13 News.
The passenger in this terminal brawl at Fort Lauderdale's airport says he was hauled out in handcuffs in May of 2014 for no reason at all.
I was compliant. Like, why? What did I do?
More than a year later, Alexis Lopez is back in South Florida, this time explaining what happened while reliving that day to Broward County jurors, who are now in the process of deciding if what he did was illegal.
We had a disagreement over luggage.
He says it was an argument over luggage with the Spirit Airlines employee that landed him here. But Lopez says he and his sister were turning to leave when they were met by BSO deputies.
He went exactly, he said, there's the door.
And then what did you do?
I said, okay, I'm leaving. I grabbed my bag and I left.
I'm not leaving and refused to exit the terminal.
Throughout the trial, Lopez says he simply brushed the officer's hand off his shoulder from behind. Surveillance video shows the entire interaction that played out before dozens of passengers. Deputies wrestle Lopez against the ground and handcuff him behind his back as he thrashes on the floor.
He struck Deputy Aquino and he pushed up against him. I believe he pushed up against me too. And, we had to restrain him.
He kept screaming, stop resisting, but I couldn't move. You're all on top of me.
Then as he walked out of the terminal, handcuffed and surrounded by deputies,
puts him in a chokehold and body slams him on his face after he's already handcuffed.
The case is now in the hands of jurors.
The defendant wasn't having that. He was angry.
To decide not if the deputy was wrong, but rather if Lopez was violently resisting or just defending himself.
You know, I don't even know how to express myself here. I just think that if you're going to be arrested, the last thing you need to do is try to resist arrest. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, I know that I'm just going to stop. If you think you're innocent, behave yourself. Be kind, be respectful. Hopefully it works out for you. But the alternative in some cases is death. So why would you even go there?
Six Baltimore police officers will stand trial separately in the death of Freddie Gray. Defense attorneys requested a judge toss out the charges alleging prosecutorial misconduct on the part of State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. The motion for dismissal focused on statements Mosby made while announcing the charges against the officers on May 1st. The judge determined her comments were not likely to sway a jury.
This judge is particularly good at cutting through all of the fat and getting to the meat of the case. He's demonstrated that he has the capacity and the will to determine this case fairly and impartially.
Officials say 25-year-old Freddie Gray suffered a severe spinal cord injury while in police custody back in April. He died as a result of his injuries, sparking days of riots and violent protests across Baltimore. The mayhem resulted in the implementation of a citywide curfew and National Guard patrols. And today, another protest.
No justice! No peace! We want all six police!
Dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the courthouse.
I think it's important that they know that we'll remain in the fight, that we will continue to demonstrate peaceful protests until we get justice.
Protests were largely peaceful today, though police say they did arrest one for blocking traffic. That particular protester, and I don't know all the details just yet, has been criminally charged with assaulting a police officer. He's been charged with a couple counts of disorderly conduct, and he's being charged with making a false statement. The next pretrial hearing is next week, where the defense will ask to move the trial outside of Baltimore. In Baltimore, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Ale in the chat room asking about the Illinois cop killers. I've got that update right here.
Authorities are expanding their search for 3 suspects wanted in the deadly shooting of a police officer in northern Illinois. This, as officials acknowledge they have no indication whether the men, 2 white, 1 black, are still in the area or if they're even still together.
It's rare that all three of them are going to be closed-mouthed and stick together in this killing.
Lieutenant Charles Joseph Glinowich was gunned down Tuesday morning shortly after radioing dispatchers that he was chasing a group of men who were acting suspiciously. Police believe the suspects took the officer's firearm, making them especially dangerous.
Safety is of a concern. We've had hourly briefings. We're putting the officers in a situation like this out in teams of 5 or 6.
Glinowitz's death is the 4th killing of a police officer in the U.S. in the last 2 weeks, leading some to fear there's a so-called war on law enforcement.
That's a question that's being asked, I know, nationally. Speaking as a police chief, it is of great concern.
Meantime, those in the Fox Lake community gather for a vigil Wednesday night in honor of the 52-year-old officer known to many as G.I. Joe.
Joe was my best friend, my world, my hero, the love of my life for the last 26 and a half years. He was my rock as much as I was his rock.
Lieutenant Glinowitz was set to retire from the force at the end of the month after serving for more than 30 years. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
That's so horrible. It breaks my heart to hear that. Let's take a look at another national story. This one's out of Kentucky.
A federal judge holding a Kentucky county clerk in contempt for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses. The judge ordering Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis to jail until she complies with his order to issue the licenses. Davis citing her religious beliefs in denying the marriage licenses to all couples after the U.S. Supreme Court legalized gay marriage in June.
There is no public official that is above the rule of law. Certainly not the President of the United States, but neither is the Rowan County Clerk.
Outside the federal courthouse, emotions running high among protesters on both sides of the issue.
I believe any belief should be respected like that. If anybody has a conviction over it, they shouldn't have to do it.
So it doesn't matter what people believe, what their faith is, what they think. This is the law. We have to follow the law.
If you can't do your job, resign.
GOP presidential candidates also weighing in on the controversy. Carly Fiorina and Senator Lindsey Graham saying Davis should comply with the law, while Mike Huckabee and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul are expressing support for the clerk.
Even with the Supreme Court decision, I think it's a mistake to sort of beat people over the head and say, you must believe as we do. And really, I think there ought to be some room for people to exercise their religious beliefs and not be told they have to do something they find morally objectionable.
The judge also warning deputy clerks that they too must issue marriage licenses to gay couples or face time in jail. In Chicago, Matt Finn, Fox News.
Making those high school science and math teachers proud. According to a new study, more college students are completing degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math over the past 5 years. Now, there's a lot more earnings power in those fields as well. Meantime, if still you're in the market for a home, it is still cheap to borrow the money for it. The average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage ticking up slightly this week to just around 3.9%, but still near all-time lows. And the Jolly Green Giant now has a new home. General Mills selling its iconic vegetable brand to rival B&G Foods. Green Giant is known for its frozen veggies and, of course, its classic logo. And if you are checking out for an early Labor Day getaway, check this out. Gas prices now at $1 less than this time last year, the national average. For a gallon of regular unleaded, $2.44. That's business. I'm Neil Cavuto.
And out of Arkansas.
It's an alleged crime in Wynne, Arkansas that not only shocked this small town, but one that sent ripple waves across the entire metro.
I heard that she got raped and she's 2 months pregnant.
According to Wynne police, this man, Justin Smith, raped a 10-year-old girl and got her pregnant.
He was interviewed. I can't go into any specifics details about the interview.
It's a sad and terrifying story, some say, in this small community.
According to police, someone notified Wynn PD that the little girl was being treated at a local hospital and that the unthinkable happened.
If someone is doing something to you that you don't think's right, to tell a counselor or to go to a parent.
Over the course of their investigation, investigators developed Justin Smith as a suspect. And then on Saturday, officers with the Wynn Police Department arrested the 20-year-old on suspicion of rape and endangering the welfare of a minor. Justin Smith was taken into custody and subsequently charged with 3 counts of rape and 1 count of endangering the welfare of a minor.
What crazy person would do that?
Pope Francis shook up the Catholic world again on Tuesday with his announcement that during the upcoming Year of Mercy, ordinary priests around the world will be allowed to offer forgiveness to women who have had abortions. A big change from the current rules, which require priests to refer those women to higher church authorities for judgment.
What Pope Francis is saying is, for everyone, no matter what sin you've committed, God is bigger than that if there's a contrite heart. I think it's a simple, beautiful message.
Many prominent bishops and most rank-and-file Catholics in America say they're in favor of the changes. And even those that oppose the new rules say they'll still support the Pope.
This Pope is not without controversy, but he's also not without great interest and attraction to not only Catholics who've left the church, but potentially bringing in new members. So you're going to win some and lose some.
The Year of Mercy comes amid a cluster of new polls showing young Catholics splitting with church doctrine on issues like abortion, birth control, and same-sex marriage. But many church leaders in America have seen their congregations grow significantly since Francis became pontiff, and they say it's due to the Pope's new emphasis on mercy and reconciliation.
Let us emphasize the mercy of God, the compassion of God. It's a question of pastoral emphasis rather than doctrinal expression.
The announcement comes ahead of the Pope's visit to the U.S., scheduled to kick off September 22nd in Washington. In New York, Lauren Green, Fox News.
I know I played this package for you earlier today, but if you're not a watcher of The Daily Show, you can enjoy this with me for your first time. It just makes me laugh. It's a funny, mean story out of Texas.
The infamous signs on the Price family's lawn calling their neighbor a D-bag aren't going anywhere soon. But the fight over their barking dogs, Freddie and Queen, is now going to trial.
It's not fair, and I think that I need to try to prove that dead dogs don't bark all the time like he says that they do.
The war of words started after communication between the Prices and their neighbor broke down. In a nutshell, the Prices say about 6 months ago, their neighbor asked them to quiet their dogs. Lisa Price says they did and thought things were settled until early last month when she says she got a citation from the city about barking dogs. That's when the signs referencing feminine products went out. The neighbors' cameras went up and tempers boiled over. But do the vulgar signs cross the line?
If something is, let's say, openly inflammatory, very incendiary, you get into the public nuisance side of things, and then the police department gets involved. Building officials looked at the situation, determined it's not something that the city has any jurisdiction to get involved in.
Since our first report, Lisa Price says she's gotten both positive and negative feedback, including hate mail from as far away as Las Vegas.
You're a white trash scumbag. I'm sure your dogs bark all day and night. Have some respect. Keep your dogs inside when you watch Jerry Springer.
She says letters like these don't affect her decision.
I think it's funny. I think whoever sent this probably needs to get a life. Don't judge me until you walk a mile in my moccasins.
Don't judge me until you've walked a mile in my moccasins. And shout out to Jerry Springer. Some of us are pretty cool and we watch Jerry Springer. We're not white trash. I love Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer loves me too. I don't know if Sammy played this for you earlier, but I have not seen this story. I wanted to end on the funny neighbor story, but I still do have 2 more minutes. So let's, this sounds like a party to me.
Soon you'll be able to order a sausage McMuffin at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. It's official, McDonald's is planning to offer breakfast items all day at its more than 14,000 restaurants across the country starting October 6th. The move marks the biggest rollout for the burger chain since the introduction of its McCafe line of coffee back in 2009. The shift to an all-day breakfast has been in a testing phase since March and was approved by franchisees in a vote last week, all in an effort to boost slowing sales. But at nearly $100 a share, does the move make McDonald's stock a buy?
Where is it going to go? It might go to 100. It'll struggle to get another high above 101. So there's no reason to buy it. If you own it, it's got a great dividend, about a 3.5% dividend. So you hold on to it, but put a floor under it. I think it's going back down with the rest of the market.
Okay.
But no reason to buy it because of the breakfast.
And one question RBC Markets analyst David Palmer is asking, can they use breakfast to find other things to keep the momentum going? For more on this and all of your top business stories, find Fox Business using the channel finder on foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Sherry Willis.
Well, I love McDonald's breakfast. It's actually sometimes the only reason I get out of bed before 10 a.m. That Egg McMuffin life. It is 9 o'clock, which means if you're local, you should turn on Channel 10. If you're not local, you can head over to fox10phoenix.com and watch our local television broadcast right from your iPod, iPhone, iPad. We give you options. And frankly, it's easier to watch our online content via our mobile app, which is totes free, fox10phoenix.com. You should follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. You should subscribe to our YouTube channel because we are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that gives you so many options to watch and enjoy us. For Fox 10 News Now, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I look forward to seeing you. I'm walking around noon, but I do look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon, and I appreciate you spending your evening with me. Special shout out to Frankie, special shout out to Ale for keeping the chat room active this evening. I love you, thank you, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Slow motion. I'm so annoying, I know I'm annoying.